Don't you love Jesus? The Lord is so good. I love the worship. It was so good. So, to start off really our speaking time at Emmanuel, I couldn't think of a better person to do it than everyone knows, our brother Gale Bamford. And so, give him a big hand and welcome.
Thank you, Dan. That was awfully generous of you. But I'm really excited to be here. The thoughts I have for today are thoughts that I deal with a lot. And it's a question. What happens to the passion? What happens to that passion that we get when we go to a summer camp like Heartland or Hume Lake, Thousand Pines, Sugar Pine, or all these different places? We go up there and we get fired up. I remember when I was a kid, I had the same experiences. On Friday night, I'd bawl my eyes out and say, Jesus, I just want to really follow you. And then it seemed like it would fade. And I'd lose that fire, that enthusiasm. I've been to many Promise Keeper rallies where men will go and they hear these great speakers and they'll make commitments to Christ there. And if someone doesn't follow up, if they don't get themselves in the right place, it seems like that fire that's there kind of fades. You guys here, and gals, you're in a place where I'm hearing stories that just thrill me about the excitement you have in your relationship with Jesus Christ. Don't let that fire die. Keep it alive. It's the only value in all the world it's worth hanging on to. I was with a guy Sunday afternoon up in the foothills in San Simeon. He's 45 years old and married twice. He's a multi-billionaire. And I met him up there, rode our bikes up there to this waterfall, and there's a pond, and he was there, and he knew the guy I was with. And I thought to myself as I left there, I wouldn't exchange what I have in Jesus for his billions any day. Because to me, without Jesus, no matter how much you have, you're a shell. Remember that. Remember that. Jesus is the only source of life that's available to us in all the world. I was on the river one day a few years back, maybe 15 years now, with a young man that I was in a discipleship relationship with, and he asked me, he said, Gale, he says, they called me Bamford, he said, Bamford, what happens to the passion? What happens to the passion? He said, my dad was really having troubles in business, and a man led him to Christ. He got so fired up about Jesus, he was telling everybody in the town about Jesus. And then his new business began to grow, and he was making money. And somebody introduced him to golf. So he started playing golf and played more and more days. And sometimes he'd leave the family functions. There was 5 of us kids, and he'd leave to go play golf. And then after golf, he would sit around in the bar at the country club and have a drink or two. And that fire just seemed like it, that enthusiasm he had for Christ just seemed to die. What happens to that? And then he met a woman there. And then he left my mom and us kids and moved off. What happened? What happens to that passion? Why does it die? I want to quickly tell you about a man that I've grown to really appreciate his life and study his life. It was a man named Uzziah. And I got introduced to Uzziah when I was reading Isaiah chapter 6. And Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1 goes like this. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. And then the story goes on to tell about this incredible experience that Isaiah had with God. And so I said, I wonder why he mentions Isaiah. And so I go back to 2 Chronicles chapter 26, verse 16. And, no, it's, let me see, is that the right verse? 5. And it talks about, Uzziah was 16 years old when he became the king of Israel. And he was about your guys' age. How would you like to be king of a great nation at your age? And it says, he sought God during the days of Zechariah, his mentor. it's probably not on the screen, who instructed him in the fear of the Lord. He had a mentor. He had a man that walked with him, a man to encourage him, a man to show him the way. And he became incredibly successful because he walked with a man who walked with God. That's the key, is that we learn to walk with God. And you can't do it alone. You need to walk with other people. You can't be an island in this thing. I've often said about people that think they can follow Christ and do it on their own without other people. You know what happens? They get weird. They do. They get weird. They go off this way or they go off that way. We need each other. I have a lot of men in my life that hold me accountable, and I'm thankful for those men. I've left coffee shops after being in conversation with people, and my friend would say, "Hey, Gale, you know what you said at the lunch table today? I don't think that was appropriate." I said, "Well, what should I do?" He said, "You probably ought to call him and ask him to tell him that what you said what isn't appropriate. Apologize." And I do it because I need my brothers. I need people in my life to help me on this journey. And Uzziah needed Zechariah desperately. And for 52 years he reigned as king, one of the most successful kings. I don't know of any other kings that reigned much longer than 52 years. Do you, Dan? Long time. But it says God blessed him. And the cattle herds grew. The farming was incredible. He had 3,600 captains, 350,000 warriors in his army. He was powerful. It says his fame spread all the way to the outskirts of Egypt. He was a powerful guy. And then it says something that I'll never stop thinking about. Verse 16. But after he became powerful, his pride led him to his downfall. You know, you'll never be in a place where you're not susceptible to Satan's schemes. No matter how much you want to be a man or a woman of God, there's going to come times when that old tempter, that old deceiver, the Bible calls him a deceiver, a schemer, and a liar, will slide up beside you and take you down a path that you really never planned on going. That's the way the world is. And we need to learn to be aware of that and live our lives consistent with that in everything that we do. I was in Costa Rica a few years ago on a mission trip, men's mission trip. And one of the guys that was there was a doctor from Fresno. He was a plastic surgeon. And the last night, he sat around in a circle, and each guy shared what the trip meant to him. And when we got to Dr. John, he says, guys, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. He said, my heart has really been changed and softened. Would you guys hold me accountable that I would live this out when I get back home? Here's a man 50 years old who's known God, who's had a relationship with God, but that relationship didn't dominate his life. And one thing I'd like to encourage you guys today is that you know Jesus in a way that he's not just somebody that I know Jesus, I'm a member of a church, but he's a person who you allow to dominate every fiber of your being. It's the best investment you could possibly make. I've stumbled along in my faith, in my life, in my following Christ, but today I look back and if I were your age, if I had the same future that you had, one thing I'd do is I'd get a hold of God in a way that would be real. And it wouldn't be a half-hearted and, oh yeah, I'm a Christian type thing. No, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I was with a man the other day who ministers to men. That's all he does. In Southern California, and he came up and he had a little seminar with us on Saturday morning. And he asked us guys in this group, do you really mean to be men of God? Followers of Jesus Christ? And he says, if you do, I'm going to ask you a question. And he put his finger in my chest. He says, man of God? And the response was, that he asked me to give was, absolutely. Absolutely. And then he slid this little thing on my wrist that I want to wear with honor. It says, man of God. Do you want to be a woman of God? Do you want to be a man of God? You're going to fail in the process. You're going to fail a lot of times. But But God will never fail you, and He'll always be there for you when you turn to Him. And when you say, Lord, I want you more than anything, He's right there no matter what your past was, no matter how bad you failed. When I was thinking about that, I was thinking about great baseball players. Do you know that the greatest hitters fail 2 out of 3 times? The guys that make the big bucks in baseball, they fail 2 out of 3 times when they go to bat. You know, you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that, oh, why in the world would I ever act like that or do something like that? But you know what? That Abba Father, that God who sent His Son to die for you, loves you right through that stuff. Loves me right through all my stuff. And today I have a relationship with Him that is so valuable to me, so meaningful to me, that I want to live it out wholeheartedly to the day I can't take another breath. Because it's really all there is. I'll tell you another quick story. I have a feedlot where we raise dairy replacement heifers, and guys come and buy cattle from us. And one day this young man came and he had a dairy going and he needed some cattle, and we visited and we sold him some cattle. I said, well, it's noontime. He would like to go with me to Traver and have some lunch. I'm going to meet a couple guys there. And he said, yeah, sure. We get to Traver and we sit outside around the table, and pretty soon there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys sitting around this table. And we're talking about the things of God. We're talking about walking with Jesus and knowing Jesus in a personal way, and how living in us affects everything that we're about. We got back in the pickup, and he says to me, he's a deep voice, big Dutchman, about 6'4", one of the toughest guys I know. He said to me, Gale, where have I been? I've been in church all my life, but I've never experienced anything like that. How can I get a hold of that? I said, well, I know a man in your area down south, I said, that has a small group he meets with, and you need to get involved in a small group. And I said, I'll get a hold of you, and I know there's room for you there. Here's how God works. When he got back to his dairy, that man was on his dairy. He never goes to his dairy, but he was there. And he enthusiastically says to the guy, his name is Sid, he said, Sid, do you got a small group that meets at your place? He said, I sure do. Would you want to come and join it? Yeah, I want to be there. That young man is from a large Dutch family. And he's affected because of his enthusiasm and his new experience. The reality of Christ in him has affected the whole family. And he'd tell me story after story after story. There's nothing like it, folks. There's nothing like it having a relationship with Jesus that's real. A relationship that dominates your life.